The European Union is urging the US to reconsider its decision to deny and revoke visas for Palestinians ahead of the UN General Assembly in New York. The US confirms Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas is among those it won't allow to attend the leaders' summit next month. The decision comes amid a push by US allies to recognise Palestinian statehood at the annual debate. Kaja Kallas, the EU's foreign affairs chief, said the decision should be reversed, citing international law and the UN's founding principles. She was speaking in Copenhagen, where ministers are discussing an EU-wide response to Israel's offensive in Gaza. Well, Rene Wildangel is a Middle East analyst and he's based in Cologne. He joins us now. Rene, first question, why has the US revoked Mahmoud Abbas and others' visas?
Well, it says that the Palestinian Authority is undermining peace. We know that this administration, the Trump administration, since it came into office, it has been a staunch supporter of the Israeli government, of Netanyahu. It has been very one-sided. And I have to say, it's kind of ironic or cynical if the US mentions that Palestinians are now undermining the images from Gaza, where the Israeli army is currently leading another destructive offensive where there is starving. We just have seen the latest report by the UN coming out. So the US is not talking about sanctions against Israel, sanctions against this extremist government. It's talking about sanctions on the Palestinian Authority. And this has to do with the recognition of the Palestinian state that several states have now talked about. It has also to do with the Palestinian cooperation with the International Criminal Court and with the international system, while this US government and the Israeli government are inherently hostile to the UN system and to the ICC in specific.
The EU has joined calls for them to change their decision on this visa situation. Is the US or are the US likely to listen to those calls?
Well, I wouldn't be very hopeful, I have to say, because the Trump administration so far has not listened to all the long list of EU demands. And the EU is very good at words and very good at condemning. And today in Copenhagen, it talked finally about deeds. Several EU heads of state said we now need to act. And the EU is saying we need a ceasefire. We need humanitarian access. We need the hostages to be freed. We need to counter this extremist Israeli government. But no, the US has not listened so far. On the contrary, it has contradicted these EU demands. It's even denying that there is starving in Gaza. So the EU said it is time for action now in Copenhagen. But I think if we look at the outcome, there is a big question mark if Europe will be able to do this.
Yeah, you say there's a lot of words coming from the EU. We've heard a lot of criticism coming from them. What are the concrete actions from the EU?
Well, today we have seen a summit in Copenhagen. It's important to remember that this was not a regular Foreign Affairs Council meeting that can make decisions. This was an informal meeting, so-called Gimnich-style meeting. So it's an exchange, but it's an important exchange. And Kaja Kallas, the head of the EU foreign policy, said that she sees a growing chance for sanctions on Israel to finally change the course, to finally change this destructive situation in Gaza. And she proposed a relatively, what she said, lenient step to freeze the funding access to EU Horizon research funding to Israel. And Israel is benefiting from this program. This has been on the table before. And if we look at the discussions in Copenhagen, no, there was no consensus. We have a couple of countries that want to go ahead. The host, Denmark, even talked about freezing the EU association agreement. We had other countries such as the Netherlands, such as Ireland, such as Spain, who want to see action, who propose concrete actions. And we have others such as Germany, Hungary, Czech Republic, who block these kind of actions. And we have seen the many divisions, and we've seen that unfortunately there's no agreement that would be needed so desperately so Europe can make an impact, because honestly, the images that we see in Gaza every day are horrible, are horrific, and I think the whole world wants to stop this. And it would be so important that Europe would speak with one voice here.
All right, Rene Wildangel, Middle East analyst, thank you very much for your analysis.
Thank you.
Well, despite condemnation at home and abroad, Israel is moving ahead with its planned takeover of Gaza City. The military has declared the city a combat zone and is advising people to leave. The Red Cross is calling the order unfeasible and incomprehensible.
On the road to nowhere. These Gaza City residents are using any means necessary to once again pack up their belongings to try and escape the latest Israeli offensive.
Here is death, there is death. Whether here or in the south, it's all death.
Their options are extremely limited. Most of the Gaza Strip is occupied by Israeli forces or under evacuation orders.
My wife and children are waiting for me in the street. I don't know where to take them, the south or not. There is nowhere for us to go. I don't have a tent. It is trapped under the rubble.
As part of its planned takeover of Gaza City, Israel's military says it is now operating 24 hours a day in the area, suspending humanitarian pauses that has allowed food and aid to be delivered between 10 a.m. and 8 p.m.
We will intensify our strikes on Hamas in Gaza City, which is a stronghold of Hamas. We will expand our strikes on the infrastructure of terrorism, both above and below ground.
The Israeli army says it is operating with great force in the outer suburbs of Zaytun and Jabalia. Officials at Gaza say it has levelled more than 1,000 buildings in the area since early August. And in Gaza City's Al-Shifa hospital, more lives are mourned after several people were killed in an Israeli airstrike south of the city.
I'd like to welcome Hisham Mhanna now, a spokesperson for the International Committee of the Red Cross, or ICRC, in Gaza. Welcome to you. Now, Israel says Gaza City is a combat zone. It's told Palestinians there to leave for the south of the Strip. The ICRC is calling this unfeasible and incomprehensible. Why?
Simply because it's impossible. It's impossible to instruct approximately over 800,000 people, if not a million, to evacuate from a place that has been devastated, damaged, under a lot of restrictions, which makes humanitarian response incomplete, to a similar place in southern Gaza inhabited by another million. Over 80% of Gaza Strip is impacted by evacuation orders. Now, you cannot push civilians into an ever-shrinking space to be more concentrated without equipping them with whatever is necessary for their survival. And this is an obligation of Israel under international humanitarian law, as an occupying power. For any family in Gaza now, which all of the families are now fully dependent on external aid, they cannot afford even the traveling cost of removing whatever of belongings they are left with to move from one area to another. If they are lucky enough, they will not find the space, they will not be able to be equipped with new sheltering items. And that is not only brand new tents. Living in a tent for a long time is not a luxury. It's disastrous, it's inhumane. So we cannot fathom how mass evacuation orders will be instructed for approximately 1 million civilians to move from one area to another, from poor living conditions, from inhuman living conditions, to similar, if not worse, and share a very, very limited space of land without any equipment, with food, water, healthcare, or access to share with another million.
I just want to go into this point a little bit more. Could you just explain what a mass evacuation of Gaza City is going to mean for the already very dire humanitarian crisis in the territory?
Well, we have witnessed the consequences of military operations, expanded military operations in urban areas that are densely populated by civilians. And that happened not this year. It happened also in October, November, and December 2023 in Gaza City. where a healthcare system has been obliterated, massive neighborhoods were destroyed, and the high death toll among civilians was incomprehensible. It was a nightmare. We used to receive on daily basis many phone calls from civilians via our hotline asking for safe evacuation. And this is a very key important issue here. Under international humanitarian law, civilians, even if they choose to stay in their homes, they remain protected under international humanitarian law. And this is absolutely not an exceptional situation, what we're witnessing in Gaza. So how can the forces on the ground or the armed carriers guarantee the safety of civilians and the remaining civilian infrastructure, including hospitals that are barely functioning and barely able to rescue and save lives while they are witnessing a nonstop influx of casualties? How can they absorb an extra influx? How can they operate? How can doctors and nurses walk and go to their places of work without being harmed? There will be no access. There will be no safety for anyone. And of course, there will be no access for humanitarian response that could be, for the majority, a life-saving issue.
We've been speaking with Hisham Mhanna from the ICRC in Gaza. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.